The sun dipped below the jagged peaks as Olivia Martinez adjusted her backpack and continued climbing the narrow mountain path. Her hiking boots crunched on loose gravel as she pushed forward, determined to reach her camping spot before darkness fell completely. Olivia was an experienced hiker who often escaped to these remote mountains whenever her job as a botanist became too stressful. She loved the solitude and the opportunity to collect rare plant specimens from this untouched wilderness. But tonight something felt different. The air seemed charged with an unusual energy and the wildlife had gone strangely quiet. As she rounded a steep bend, Olivia froze. Her eyes widened at the impossible sight before her. Nestled in a small valley, between two towering peaks was what could only be described as a spacecraft. The vessel was unlike anything human-made. Its sleek silver-blue hull reflected the dying sunlight with an almost liquid shimmer. The craft was partially buried in the mountainside as if it had crashed there long ago. Curiosity overcame caution and Olivia approached the vessel. Her heart pounded in her chest as she examined the smooth exterior. No visible seams or rivets interrupted its perfect surface. A soft humming emanated from within, suggesting some systems might still be operational. She circled the craft twice before discovering what appeared to be an entrance. A section of the hull had cracked open, creating a narrow passage just wide enough for her to squeeze through. Olivia hesitated momentarily before switching on her flashlight and ducking inside. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with curved walls that seemed to absorb and redirect her flashlight beam in strange ways. The air felt cool and somehow fresher than outside. She moved cautiously deeper into the vessel, running her fingers along the walls, which pulsed slightly beneath her touch, as if responding to her presence. Olivia turned a corner and gasped. Standing before her was a woman. At least she appeared mostly woman-like at first glance. Her skin had a faint bluish tint that seemed to shimmer under the flashlight beam. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, with vertical pupils that narrowed when the light hit them. Her features were delicate, almost ethereally beautiful, but unmistakably alien. The alien woman wore what appeared to be a form-fitting uniform made of a material that shifted colors like oil on water. She stared at Olivia with equal parts curiosity and apprehension. Neither moved for several long moments. Finally, the alien woman raised her hand in what seemed like a greeting gesture. Olivia slowly mirrored the action. Her scientific mind raced with questions, while a more primal part of her screamed, "To run." The alien spoke. Her voice was melodic with unusual inflections that no human language contained. She tapped her chest and said something that sounded like Alara. Olivia pointed to herself and said her name. The alien nodded and repeated Olivia, with perfect pronunciation despite its complex vowels. Then she pointed to herself again. Alara communication established at the most basic level. Olivia felt a thrill of excitement rush through her. She was probably the first human to make contact with an extraterrestrial being. Alara gestured for Olivia to follow her deeper into the ship. They moved through corridors that lit up automatically as they approached various control panels, and strange devices lined the walls. Some were dark and dormant while others blinked with colored lights. They entered what appeared to be a control room. A large, transparent display dominated one wall, showing star charts and symbols. Olivia recognized none of them. Alara moved to a console and placed her hand on its surface. The entire room hummed to life. More displays activating around them, using gestures and simple drawings on a screen. Alara began to communicate her situation. Her ship had malfunctioned, forcing an emergency landing on Earth. She had been alone here for what Olivia estimated was about 3 months based on the crude calendar Alara had created. The alien had been attempting repairs but lacked certain materials. Olivia realized Alara was effectively stranded and seeking help. Understanding dawned on her that this was both an incredible discovery and an enormous responsibility. She could expose this find to the world, potentially putting Alara in danger from those who might wish to study or exploit her. Or she could help the alien repair her ship and allow her to leave without anyone else knowing. Olivia contemplated this dilemma. A warning light began flashing on the main console. Ilara moved quickly, checking displays and pressing various controls. Her movements became increasingly urgent. Through more gestures and simple drawings, Ilara communicated that the ship was experiencing a power surge in its main engine. The damaged systems were becoming unstable, and without immediate intervention could cause an explosion large enough to devastate the surrounding mountains. Olivia watched in growing alarm as Ilara attempted to stabilize the systems. The alien woman worked quickly, but frustration was evident in her movements. She needed help. Despite having no knowledge of alien technology, Olivia stepped forward. She was good with systems and patterns. Having Ilara guide her through simple tasks might be enough. Something in her refused to stand by while disaster loomed. For the next hour, they worked. Side by side, Ilara would demonstrate a sequence on one panel, then direct Olivia to perform similar actions on another. They developed a rhythm of cooperation, bridging the gap between their vastly different backgrounds through shared purpose. The warning lights eventually stopped flashing. The ship hummed at a steadier pitch, indicating the crisis had passed. Ilara placed a four-fingered hand on Olivia's shoulder, in what could only be interpreted as gratitude. As they stood together in the soft glow of the control panels, Olivia made a decision: she would help Ilara repair her ship. She nodded firmly and pointed to the damaged sections, then made a fixing motion with her hands. Ilara seemed to understand. Her large eyes brightened, and she made a similar gesture. She led Olivia through the ship, showing her the damaged components and the repairs she had attempted already. Some parts were beyond repair. Others might be replaceable with Earth materials. Night had fallen outside the ship, and Olivia knew she needed to return to her campsite. She tried to communicate that she would come back tomorrow. Ilara watched her with what seemed like understanding and walked her to the entrance as Olivia stepped out into the cool mountain air. She turned back one last time. Ilara stood in the doorway, her form silhouetted against the soft interior lights of the ship. For a moment, Olivia wondered if she was making the right choice, but something told her this encounter was meant to happen. Olivia barely slept that night. Her mind raced with the implications of her discovery. She had met an actual alien being a visitor from another world. As she lay in her tent staring at the fabric ceiling, she tried to process everything that had happened. By morning, she had made her decision. She would help Ilara, but would keep the discovery to herself, at least for now. She packed her camping gear and hiked down to her truck parked at the base of the mountain trail. Driving to the nearest town, she purchased basic tools, electrical components, wires, and other supplies that might be useful for repairs. Then she returned to the mountain, making the difficult climb. Once more, when she reached the ship, Ilara was waiting at the entrance. She seemed pleased to see Olivia again, and even more pleased to see the supplies she had brought. They went inside and began to work. Over the next several days, they established a routine. Olivia would hike down the mountain each morning to get more supplies, then return to work with Ilara until sunset. Through drawings and gestures, they developed a more complex form of communication. Ilara was incredibly intelligent, quickly learning several English words, while Olivia struggled to pronounce even the simplest words in Ilara's language. One afternoon, Ilara led Olivia to a different section of the ship. They entered a spherical room with walls that appeared to be made of glass, though they were clearly much stronger. She placed her hand on a panel, and suddenly the room transformed. The walls became transparent, and Olivia gasped as she found herself seemingly suspended in space. Stars surrounded them, planets floated by, and colorful nebulae stretched across the void. Ilara pointed to a bright blue star, then to several planets orbiting it. She indicated the third planet from the star and touched her chest. This was her homeworld. Olivia realized Ilara was showing her where she came from. Images began to appear on the walls. Scenes from Ilara's planet, cities of crystalline light, stretched toward purple skies. People similar to Ilara moved through gardens of strange plants and unusual animals. Vessels like the one they stood in soared between enormous towers. Olivia watched in wonder as Ilara showed her glimpses of an advanced civilization. She saw how they had mastered clean energy, environmental harmony, and space travel. She saw art and music, though in forms very different from Earth. She saw families, communities, and a society that seemed peaceful and prosperous. When the display ended, Olivia had tears in her eyes. The beauty of what she had seen moved her deeply. She pointed to Ilara, then to the images of the planet, asking with gestures if she missed her home. Ilara nodded. Her large eyes showed an emotion Olivia recognized despite their alien appearance. Longing. She was homesick. With renewed determination, they returned to the repair work. The ship systems were complex, but Ilara was patient in showing Olivia what needed to be done. Most of the damage was to the propulsion system and navigation controls. Earth materials were primitive compared to what Ilara normally worked with, but she was resourceful, adapting what Olivia brought to serve her needs as they worked together. Olivia learned more about Ilara. She discovered that Ilara was a scientist studying stellar phenomena. She had been on a solo research mission when her ship encountered an unexpected gravitational anomaly that damaged several critical systems, forcing her to make an emergency landing on the nearest habitable planet, Earth. Through drawings, Ilara explained that her people had been observing Earth from a distance for many years. They found humans fascinating but considered them too unpredictable and sometimes too violent for official contact. That was why Ilara had hidden her ship and avoided human settlements. She had been trying to repair her vessel and leave without being discovered. One evening as they finished work for the day, a distant rumble of thunder warned of an approaching storm. Olivia knew she should head back to her campsite, but the sky was already darkening ominously. Ilara seemed to understand her concern and gestured for Olivia to stay in the ship. The storm hit with surprising force. Rain pounded against the exterior of the vessel while lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the mountain peaks in brief electric bursts. Olivia was grateful for the shelter the ship provided. It was warm and dry inside, a stark contrast to the chaos of the storm outside. Ilara brought Olivia to what appeared to be a small living area with comfortable furnishings that adapted to human form when Olivia sat on them. The alien prepared a meal using supplies from her ship. Olivia was hesitant at first, but when Ilara demonstrated that the food was safe by eating some herself, she tried it. The flavors were unusual but not unpleasant. After they ate, Ilara showed Olivia more about her culture through images and simple demonstrations. She taught Olivia a game similar to chess, but with pieces that moved according to different rules. They communicated through a combination of words, gestures, and drawings, gradually building a shared vocabulary. The storm raged throughout the night, but inside the ship Olivia felt safe. She realized she was beginning to trust Ilara completely. Despite their different origins, they had formed a genuine connection. When morning came, the storm had passed. The mountain air was fresh and clean. Olivia knew she needed to return to town for more supplies and to check her messages. Her extended absence might start to worry people, especially her colleagues at the research center, as she prepared to leave. Ilara showed her something new, a small device about the size of a coin. She demonstrated how it could be used to communicate over short distances. It would allow Olivia to signal when she was approaching the ship. Olivia accepted the device gratefully. Slipping it into her pocket, she made gestures indicating she would return the next day. Ilara nodded, understanding. Olivia hiked down the mountain trail. Her mind was filled with everything she had learned. She wondered what would happen when the ship was finally repaired. Would Ilara simply leave? Would Olivia ever see her again? Or would this extraordinary encounter change both their lives forever? Olivia arrived in town feeling strangely disconnected from the ordinary people going about their daily lives. None of them knew about the extraordinary secret she was keeping. Her phone had several missed calls from her supervisor at the research center, Maggie Wilson. She called back explaining that she had extended her hiking trip to collect more plant samples. Maggie seemed satisfied with the explanation, but reminded her that she was expected back at work soon. While in town, Olivia visited the library to research unidentified flying objects and alien encounters. Most accounts seemed like fantasy or misidentified natural phenomena, but now she wondered how many might have been genuine. She also gathered more supplies, electronic components, that might be useful for the ship repairs. On her return to the mountain, she used the communication device Ilara had given her. When she was about half a mile from the ship, she pressed the center of the coin-sized disc. It glowed softly with a blue owl light. Olivia hoped this meant Alara had received her signal. When she reached the clearing, she found Alara waiting. She looked excited and led Olivia quickly into the ship. Once inside, Alara brought her to a new section they hadn't explored before. It appeared to be a laboratory with various equipment and containers holding specimens. Alara activated a display, showing what looked like DNA structures, but much more complex than anything Olivia had seen in her biology studies. Through gestures and drawings, Alara explained that she had been analyzing Earth life forms. The specimens ranged from simple bacteria to plant samples. Olivia recognized some from the surrounding area. Alara pointed to the displays, then to similar structures from her world, showing the fundamental similarities between life on both planets. Olivia was fascinated as a botanist. This comparative biology was incredible. She pointed to herself, asking if Alara had studied humans as well. Alara hesitated, then nodded. She brought up new displays showing human genetic structures alongside her own species. The similarities were striking despite the obvious differences, using their developing system of communication. Alara explained that her people had been studying Earth for generations. They found humans particularly interesting because they were at a crucial developmental stage, technologically advanced enough to reach space but still struggling with social problems and environmental challenges. Her people had debated making contact many times, but always decided to wait until humans had resolved some of their more destructive tendencies as they continued working on the ship repairs. Olivia thought about what Alara had shared. Were humans really seen as too primitive or dangerous for official contact? The idea was humbling, but she couldn't entirely disagree, considering humanity's history of warfare and environmental damage. Days passed and the repairs progressed steadily. They had replaced most of the damaged components and were now working on the navigation system. Alara had adapted Earth technology in ingenious ways to interface with her ship's advanced systems. Olivia was learning, rapidly absorbing knowledge that was centuries beyond current human science. One evening, as they were finishing their work, Olivia's communication device suddenly beeped, alerting them to someone approaching the ship. Alara looked alarmed. Her large eyes widened in fear. Olivia quickly gestured for her to hide while she went outside to investigate. Heart-pounding, Olivia stepped out of the ship and was shocked to see her colleague Noah Baker climbing up the trail toward her. Noah was a geologist from the research center. He waved when he spotted her. Noah explained that Maggie had become concerned when Olivia hadn't returned as scheduled. He had volunteered to check on her, knowing she often camped in this area. Olivia tried to act casual, positioning herself to block the view of the ship. Eating Diesaoi claimed she had found some unusual plant specimens and lost track of time. Noah seemed suspicious, especially when he noticed the strange shape behind Olivia. He asked what she had found. She scrambled for an explanation, saying it was an unusual rock formation she had been studying. Noah started moving toward it, curious as any scientist would be. Panicking, Olivia tried to distract him, but it was too late. He had seen enough of the ship to know it was natural. He rushed forward despite her protests, and stood staring in amazement at the alien vessel. Before Olivia could stop him, Noah had discovered the entrance and was peering inside. Suddenly, Alara appeared in the doorway. Her alien appearance caused Noah to stumble backward in shock. He nearly fell, but Olivia caught his arm, steadying him. For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Noah began asking rapid questions. What is this? Who is she? What have you found? Olivia tried to calm him, explaining briefly how she had discovered Alara and the ship. She emphasized that Alara was peaceful, and that she had been helping her repair her vessel. Noah was overwhelmed, but his scientific curiosity quickly overcame his fear. He approached Alara cautiously, extending his hand in greeting as Olivia had done that first day. Alara mimicked the gesture, clearly relieved that he wasn't reacting with hostility. Inside the ship, Olivia explained everything to Noah. She showed him the repairs they had made and demonstrated the communication system they had developed. He was fascinated, especially by the star maps and the information about Alara's world. As night fell, the three of them sat in the control room discussing what to do next. Noah agreed that keeping Alara's presence secret was wise government. Agencies might treat her as a threat or a research subject rather than a sentient being deserving of respect. However, he pointed out that they needed more help to complete the repairs. The ship's technology was incredibly advanced and there were components they couldn't replicate with Earth materials. Noah suggested bringing in one more person, someone they could trust. Kelly Ramirez was an electronics engineer who worked at the research center. She was brilliant and discreet. Noah believed she could help solve some of the technical challenges they faced. Olivia was hesitant about involving more people, but she recognized the practical necessity. Ilara seemed to understand their discussion, and through gestures indicated her willingness to meet Kelly. They agreed that Noah would return to town the next day and bring Kelly to the ship. Olivia would stay with Ilara to continue working on the systems. They understood Ilara spent the evening teaching them more about her navigation technology, showing how it mapped not just physical space, but subtle energy patterns between star systems. It was a method of travel that allowed her ship to move vast distances by following these cosmic pathways. As Noah prepared to leave in the morning, Olivia gave him the communication device, showing him how to use it to signal their approach the next day. He promised to be careful and to make sure Kelly understood the importance of secrecy. After he left, Olivia and Ilara continued their work, but there was a new tension in the air. Their secret was no longer just between the two of them. For better or worse, others now knew about the extraordinary visitor from the stars. The next day passed slowly for Olivia and Ilara. They continued working on the ship, but Olivia could sense Ilara's nervousness at the prospect of meeting more humans. Olivia tried to reassure her through gestures and the few words of English. Ilara had learned that her friends could be trusted. Late in the afternoon, the communication device activated, signaling that Noah was approaching. With him was Kelly Ramirez, just as planned. Olivia went outside to meet them while Ilara waited inside the ship. Kelly stopped in her tracks when she first saw the vessel. Her eyes widened and her mouth fell open. Noah had told her they had found something extraordinary, but clearly she hadn't fully believed him until this moment. When Ilara emerged from the ship, Kelly gasped, but to her credit, she quickly composed herself. She stepped forward and offered the same greeting gesture Olivia had used that first day. Unlike Noah, Kelly's initial shock quickly gave way to practical analysis. She was less interested in the philosophical implications of alien contact and more focused on the ship's technology. After a brief introduction, she asked to see the damaged systems. Ilara seemed to appreciate this straightforward approach and led Kelly through the ship, showing her the areas that still needed repair. Kelly was amazed by the technology but not intimidated. She examined the propulsion system and navigation controls with professional interest, asking questions through gestures and simple words. She quickly grasped concepts that had taken Olivia days to understand. That evening, the four of them gathered in the control room to assess their progress. Kelly believed she could help repair the remaining systems, but would need specialized equipment. From her lab, she made a list of items necessary to complete the work. Noah volunteered to obtain them, saying he could borrow what they needed without raising suspicion as they planned their next steps. Ilara activated the ship's holographic display. She showed them images of her homeworld similar to what she had shown Olivia earlier. Kelly and Noah watched in awe as scenes from an alien civilization played out before them. Advanced cities, exotic landscapes, and technology beyond human imagination. Through their crude but improving communication system, Ilara explained more about her mission. She had been studying unusual stellar phenomena in this region of space when she encountered the anomaly that damaged her ship. She needed to return not just for personal reasons, but to report her findings. Her people would be concerned about her extended absence. The next morning, Noah and Kelly returned to town to gather the necessary equipment. They promised to come back in 2 days. Olivia remained. With Ilara continuing their work and their cultural exchange, Ilara seemed more relaxed now, having met humans who accepted her without fear or hostility. On the 3rd day, Noah and Kelly returned with backpacks full of equipment. Kelly had managed to obtain everything on her list without arousing suspicion. They immediately set to work focusing on the navigation system, which was the most complicated component still in need of repair. Kelly's expertise proved invaluable. She quickly understood how Ilara's technology functioned and developed adaptations that allowed Earth components to interface with the alien systems. Working together, the four of them made more progress in one day than Olivia and Ilara had made in a week. As evening approached, they were interrupted by an unexpected sound: helicopter rotors. The sound grew louder, clearly approaching their location. Ilara looked alarmed. Her eyes widened with fear. Olivia rushed to the entrance and peered outside. A black helicopter was circling, the mountain its searchlight sweeping the slopes. Noah joined her, looking concerned. He explained that when they had borrowed the equipment from the research center, they had been careful, but perhaps someone had noticed or reported the missing items. Olivia felt a surge of panic. They had been discovered. Kelly suggested hiding the ship, but it was too large and too obvious in the mountain clearing. There was nowhere to conceal it. Instead, they decided to move Ilara's ship deeper into a nearby cave. Ilara activated the emergency propulsion system, allowing the vessel to hover just above the ground. Noah and Kelly guided it, while Olivia scouted ahead, finding a deep cavern large enough to contain the ship. They barely managed to conceal the vessel before the helicopter reached their area. The searchlight swept over the original clearing, finding nothing but disturbed earth. They watched from the cave entrance as the helicopter circled several times, then moved on to search other areas of the mountain. When it was finally gone, they returned to the ship, discussing their options. The helicopter search meant someone suspected something unusual in the mountains. They needed to complete the repairs quickly before they were discovered. Working through the night, they focused on the final systems Kelly's makeshift adaptations were holding. But they needed to test the navigation and propulsion systems before Ilara could attempt a journey home. By morning, the ship was nearly ready. Ilara activated the main computer and ran a diagnostic program. Lights flickered across the control panels as the system checked each component. The results were promising. Most systems showed green, ready for operation. However, the main propulsion drive was still showing intermittent faults. Kelly believed she could stabilize it with one more day of work. They agreed to make a final push to complete the repairs. That afternoon, they heard the helicopter returning. This time, it was accompanied by the sound of vehicles and voices on the mountain trail. Below them, a convoy of black SUVs had arrived at the base of the mountain, and people in uniform were beginning to climb toward their location. Noah used binoculars to observe the approaching group. He reported seeing government insignia on the vehicles and what appeared to be military personnel among the climbing party. They had perhaps 6 hours before the search party reached the cave. With renewed urgency, they worked on the final repairs. Kelly and Ilara focused on the propulsion system, while Olivia and Noah secured the other components and prepared the ship for departure. The work was tense and difficult, but they made steady progress. As evening fell, they heard the search party, getting closer, voices echoing through the mountain caves. Kelly made a final adjustment to the propulsion system, and Ilara ran another diagnostic. This time, all systems showed ready. The ship could fly. They faced a difficult decision. Someone needed to create a diversion to draw the search party away from the cave while Ilara launched the ship. Noah volunteered. He would lead the searchers in the wrong direction, giving Ilara time to escape. Kelly argued that she should go with Noah to make the diversion more convincing. They would claim to be hikers who had seen strange lights in a different part of the mountain range. Meanwhile, Olivia would remain with Ilara to ensure the launch went smoothly. The plan was set. Noah and Kelly prepared to leave. They would hike down a different trail, making enough noise to attract attention, then tell the search party they had seen strange lights on the western ridge far from the cave where the ship was hidden. Olivia hugged them both, thanking them for their help and courage. They promised to meet again at the research center in 3 days, assuming everything went as planned. After Noah and Kelly left, Olivia and Ilara made the final preparations for launch. The ship was fully operational, but there was still a risk. The propulsion system had been repaired with makeshift components that might not withstand the stress of space travel. Ilara seemed confident nonetheless. Her determination to return home outweighed the potential dangers as they waited for Noah and Kelly to draw away the search party. Ilara showed Olivia something new, a small device about the size of a smartphone. She demonstrated how it worked, activating a holographic display that showed star maps and communication functions. Through gestures and simple words, Alara explained that she wanted Olivia to keep it, a way to remember her, and perhaps someday a way to communicate across the vast distance between their worlds. Olivia was deeply moved by the gift. She tried to express her gratitude but found words inadequate. Instead, she pulled a small item from her pocket, a simple crystal she had found years ago while hiking. It had no technological value but was beautiful, catching light in fascinating ways. She pressed it into Alara's hand, a memento of Earth and their friendship. They heard shouting in the distance, followed by the sound of the helicopter engines changing direction. The diversion was working. The search party was moving away from their location. It was time. Alara activated the ship systems. The control room came alive with lights and displays. She guided Olivia to the exit, explaining through gestures that she needed to leave. The launch sequence was beginning and it wasn't safe to remain inside. At the cave entrance, they faced each other one last time. Human and alien brought together by chance, now connected by friendship. Alara raised her hand in the greeting gesture that had begun. Their relationship, Olivia mirrored it, then impulsively stepped forward and hugged her. After a moment's surprise, Alara returned. The embrace. Olivia stepped back and watched as Alara returned to her ship. The entrance sealed behind her. Olivia retreated to the mouth of the cave, keeping to the shadows to avoid being seen by anyone who might still be searching nearby. Inside the cave, the ship began to hum. The sound grew louder, vibrating through the mountain rock. A soft blue glow emanated from beneath the vessel as it rose slowly from the cave floor, hovering in the air. With surprising grace for something so large, the ship moved forward, passing Olivia at the cave entrance. The blue glow illuminated her face as she watched it emerge into the night sky. The ship paused briefly as if Alara was taking one last look at the planet and the human who had helped her. Then it shot upward at incredible speed, becoming a streak of light against the stars. Olivia stood watching until the light faded completely, blending with the countless stars above. She clutched the device Alara had given her, feeling both joy at her friend's escape and sadness at the parting. The mountain seemed strangely quiet, now empty of the extraordinary presence that had filled it for the past weeks. She heard voices approaching. The helicopter was returning. She quickly hid the device in her backpack and moved away from the cave, following a different path down the mountain. She needed to avoid the search party and make her way back to town as if she had simply been hiking. 3 days later, as agreed, Olivia met Noah and Kelly at the research center. They found a private spot where they could talk freely. Noah explained how they had successfully diverted the search party, leading them to the western ridge with a story about strange lights. They had been questioned extensively, but eventually released when nothing unusual was found. Kelly reported that there were rumors circulating about a possible meteor or experimental aircraft that had crashed in the mountains. The official story was that the search had found nothing, but she had heard whispers that the operation was still ongoing, with teams searching more remote areas. Olivia shared her experience of Alara's departure and showed them the device she had been given. They agreed to keep it secret, fearing what might happen if government agencies learned of its existence. The device appeared dormant for now, but occasionally lights would flicker across its surface, suggesting it was still functioning. In the weeks that followed, life gradually returned to normal. Olivia resumed her work at the research center, studying plant specimens and writing research papers. But her perspective had changed forever. She found herself looking at the night sky differently, knowing there were other worlds out there with people not so unlike humans. She kept Alara's device with her always. Sometimes at night she would activate it, watching the star maps that appeared in holographic form above it. She wondered where Alara was now. Had she made it home safely? Was she sharing her discoveries about Earth with her people? One night, about 6 months after Alara's departure, Olivia was camping in the mountains, not far from where she had first discovered the ship. She had returned partly out of nostalgia and partly hoping for some sign. As she sat beside her campfire gazing at the stars, the device in her pocket suddenly activated on its own. A holographic display appeared, showing a star map with a pulsing light moving along a specific path. Olivia watched fascinated as the light traveled from a distant star toward a familiar configuration that she recognized as our solar system. A message appeared, in strange symbols that gradually shifted, transformed by some internal program into English letters. The message was simple: coming back. Friend. Olivia's heart raced with excitement. She looked up at the night sky, searching for any sign, but saw only the usual stars. Yet she knew something extraordinary was happening. Alara was returning, perhaps with others of her kind. Official first contact might soon be a reality. Olivia contacted Noah and Kelly, sharing the message. They were equally excited, and immediately began making plans. Should they alert authorities? Would that put Alara at risk? They debated their options, finally deciding to wait for more information. They would monitor the device and prepare a secluded meeting place away from prying eyes. Over the following days, the device showed the approaching ship moving steadily closer. It would arrive within a week, according to their best interpretation of the data. They selected a remote location deep in the national forest, rarely visited by hikers or rangers. They would meet Alara there, guiding her to a safe landing. As the appointed day approached, Olivia felt a growing sense of anticipation, mixed with nervousness. What would this return visit mean for humanity? For her own life? Everything was about to change again. On the final night, she stood with Noah and Kelly in the chosen clearing, their eyes turned skyward, watching for the first sign of Alara's ship. The device in Olivia's hand pulsed with increasing frequency, indicating something approaching. A point of light appeared different from the surrounding stars, moving with purpose, rather than the slow wheeling of celestial bodies. It grew brighter, descending toward them. Olivia stepped forward, her heart full of hope and wonder as the light became a familiar shape. The extraordinary journey that had begun with a chance discovery in the mountains was about to enter a new chapter, and whatever came next, Earth would never be the same.